Good morning, one and all, and welcome to Coffee at 11 with my good friend, very special guest this morning on this beautiful spring morning, Friday morning, and it is Eamonn Smith. Let me tell you, well, before we tell you anything about Eamonn, say good morning and show us your mug, please.
Good morning, everyone. I have my Bewley's mug there. If you can see it, there we go. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
lovely.
Good
Nice,
stuff.
big cup of coffee. Yeah.
There will be Eamonn Smith coaching mugs yet. I'm confident.
A wise man once said, "I love my coffee." Yeah, yeah.
Let me tell you about Eamonn before we ask the man himself. Eamonn Smith, his business name is Eamonn Smith Coaching. What does your business do, Eamonn? My mission is to facilitate people being in the driving seat of their own life, a master of their own life and all the various aspects of it, business, relationships, health, well-being, etc. How long established? 2017, started giving pro bono talks, pro bono coaching. 1 year established in professional service as a coach, speaker, mentor. How many employees? Just me. Introduction, my journey began at 40, says Eamonn, at the point of no return, feeling lost and beyond hope. This journey has led to discovering my purpose as a coach, mentor and inspirational speaker. My passion is in sharing my message and facilitating in personal growth and mastery through what I call P.I.E.S, P-I.E.S, stands for physical, intellectual, emotional and spiritual. Using insight, vulnerability, inspiration, courage, humor, I serve to facilitate people creating new beliefs, new habits, new skills, new actions, and therefore new results. I believe that you can be, do, and have everything you want. I believe it is possible. My dream is to facilitate as many people as possible unlocking this potential within. And then something nobody knows about you. He says, my near miss, my almost found experience in the midst which gave me the courage to take massive action. Wow, Eamonn, there's some intro. Eamonn Smith, very welcome to Coffee at 11, my friend. And in your own words, please, bring us up to the point before coaching, please. Potted history, about 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you, Eamonn.
Okay, bless you. Thank you, Colin. Potted history before coaching. Okay, so I suppose my journey, I have to go right back to the start, really, when I was 3. I guess that would be my first profound experience. And tragically, my dad had passed away. And I was on the scene when the discovery was made. So that was quite a profound experience as a toddler that would have marked or set a course, let's say. Now, I mean, in school, I suppose just to run through those first few years briefly, rather than have everyone fall asleep. So have your coffee at the ready. Going through school kind of came easy, let's say. Like results, I'd get like high 90% in everything, you know, and school was a doddle and I enjoyed it in primary school. But life, let's say, was tough at an emotional level. Maybe at a love connection level, that was quite difficult. Was going a little bit more insular, withdrawn slowly over time. I think by the time I was about 14, I'd gone right under that dark cloud, right in under a dark cloud, which I wouldn't have known what it was at the time. Now, of course, I know that's depression and anxiety, and my mental health was deteriorating. And I sort of just dragged my backside through secondary school. I didn't really care. Showed up. I would have been the guy who would have been thrown out first for messing or causing some big outrageous prank that I can't believe he did that. That would have been me, and get the big scores as well. But by the time I got to the halfway point, the second half of secondary school, the scores started to kind of dip quite dramatically. Just about got through my intercert, showing my age, and my leaving cert. And couldn't wait to get out of there. Couldn't wait to get out of school. Funny enough, you know, 3 decades later, love being back, but I had an ongoing battle, let's say, a winning and losing battle with depression, anxiety, and kind of mental health. Had the better of me, I suppose, for quite some time, and awareness might have been lower than one would like it to be. That got quite serious then around 21. I did spend a little bit of time in hospital when I was 21. What else? So that kind of fluctuated through my 20s. Fast forward then to later on, late 20s, settled down, got married, relocated to Kerry. We had 3 kids before we moved down from Dublin. When we moved to Kerry, we had 2 more. So I have 5 beautiful children, 4 girls and a boy. Blessed art thou among women, like myself. And the marriage broke up, and that was quite difficult. It was quite difficult for all of us. I had been working as a time as a barber. I had a very successful practice. I'd moved to Kerry, and I'd gone to a good friend of mine, Sean Taff. He's now president of the Irish Hairdressing Council. And at the time I'd gone to him, he had a ladies salon. And I went to him with this idea of setting up like a 5-star barber thing to match his fabulous ladies thing. So he jumped at it, which was great. So I went in there, got that set up. After a couple of years as a blow-in, I was so busy I literally couldn't manage all the work. So I reached out, made a phone call to a bank manager who it just so happened was a really good client of mine, and his kids as well. So we had a lot of chats about business plans. That was all new to me. So I learned all about that, went out on my own, and flew. It was brilliant. It was flat out for some time. So at a business level, things were good for about 6-7 years in Killarney, which is like a spiritual home for me still these days. My kids are based around that area. And things then started to kind of slide, I suppose. And again, I would have been battling that kind of anxiety, depression. I was still kind of doing my best to, I don't know, tolerate and put up with it. Antidepressants might have been a big factor from time to time, you know, and seeing GPs and psychotherapists and so on. So that was kind of an in and out thing for several years. But when the marriage came to an end and the business kind of folded as well, those two kind of went hand in hand. It wasn't a recession related thing, but the business folded. I found myself in calamitous debt, 6-figure debt, no marriage, couldn't get access to my kids. My mental health was atrocious. And there are probably 2 or 3 other things, you know, like my own perfect storm, to borrow your phrase, was going on. And there was something in me that was aware, okay, the journey that's ahead is going to get very rocky, and think about where your well-being is now. It's not so great. So something just sparked me to kind of maybe start to look after that. So once I'd relocated, I'd moved out of the family home, and I moved into Killarney town, and I just started playing around with, I'd had a notion to kind of explore Buddhism and all things Buddhist for many years and never did. So I'll read about it, I'll get around to it eventually. I thought, well, there's no time like the present. So I started dipping around in that. And that was the first of many light bulb moments that I've had throughout the last, it would be 7 years now. So fell in love with that, went on some retreats, went to lots of courses, sat with kind of Buddhist masters and lamas and rinpoches all around Europe, and just got it, you know. So that's been an amazing thing for me. That would have brought me up to the point where I moved to Limerick around 2013. Start again, fresh start. I'd originally moved over there, so I thought I'd originally moved over there to manage a barbershop. It turned out to be a fairly disastrous experience. But again, it was very, very helpful. I realized, like, you know, I'm putting up with stuff that I'm really not enjoying. I'm putting up with just doesn't make my heart sing at all. So what would make my heart sing? I took myself back into school, and I was in a classroom for the first time in nearly 30 years. And I remember doing a course in Limerick called The Gold Within. And I realized this is very kind of linked to the Buddhist stuff. And it turned out this man was a professor of Buddhist psychology. So I just gobbled up this little 10-week course. And it started from there. And I guess I suddenly realized, oh my God, ding, I know what I want to do with the rest of my life.
And I'll come in on that if I may. That's some journey and some amount of history in there in an extended period of time. A couple of things that I'd like to reflect on, if I may.
Sure.
The fact that just at the end of that piece there, you told us you went back to school, and you went back willingly because you ran out of school by your own admission back in the day. Even though you were getting the 90s and all the rest of it. The phrase that's been used on the show regularly, by the way, has been jammy, which is anybody who gets on with stuff, you know, just it appears easy. So in terms of your school results, you were jammy, but you know, you ran out of school, you forged a career, and then you went inside through all those circumstances, and, you know, hats off to you and thank you for sharing and being so honest with that, because the whole idea here is to let people know these are real people with real stories, real backgrounds, and everybody on the call here or somebody who watched the video will pick out something different that will relate to them. So thank you for that. But so you went back to school, and I find it really interesting that when any of us decide that we're going to choose a topic to explore or study, all of a sudden it's not work anymore. So you went back to school, and it appears that you loved it, and that has set you off on this journey. Can you take us from going back to school, that 10-week program, to starting your coaching business? And I love the fact that you did pro bono work. I think that's great in your early year or two, because that's the way that you get knowledge, you know, and while you're learning, you can't really be charging people for being your guinea pig, right? So get that. Hats off to you for that. Take us through that early start, if you wouldn't mind, and then perhaps up to your first public outing. Would you do that?
Yeah. First, Yeah, sharply take a breath when you mentioned first public outing. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But it's important to point out, and my apologies I left it out, but it's really important to point out, I think the journey began, for me, my rock bottom was I did come to the moment where, and not just considered, I was about to, let's say, pass on by my own hands. I felt like I was done. And I felt like if there's some reason, it's important for me to mark this, if there's some reason why I'm supposed to remain alive, I think I'm sane, I think I'm of sound mind, I don't think I've lost it, but this isn't working. And I need some reason to go on, even in the next second. And I was right there in that moment. And what I can only describe then is the first of a series of very profound, deep, meaningful, I wouldn't even call it thoughts or feelings, just a knowing, let's say. Okay, some things you just can't verbalize. It was a feeling just, and you have to bear in mind at the time, my relationship with me was super low. Like my love of me was zero. So to have that perspective, the next feeling I felt was just this, just not even overwhelming, this absolutely extraordinary bliss and love. Because let's say I got the feeling of how my kids feel about me, right? I absolutely felt the feelings and the unconditional love that my kids feel for me. And it suddenly occurred to me, well, they are amazing. They are my whole universe and they can't all be wrong. And I was kind of stood in that space feeling those feelings. Yeah. And there was tears coming down my face. I was like, that's extraordinary. So it was almost like you could say it was my first encounter with loving myself, giving two hoots about me. And that was amazing. And I turned around, I had changed my mind, I said, let's go on. And it was I thought this funny thing, all my stuff, all my crises, all that stuff is there still, but there's no worry. The feeling I have is completely different. So that was the first, let's say, little kind of, what is that? So I guess I began to start chasing those breadcrumbs, let's say. So to jump back to what you were saying.
Before you jump back in, let me honor you on behalf of all of the people on the show here for being so honest.
Cool.
You needn't have done that, but I appreciate it. I'm aware of the backstory and I appreciate that you've been so vulnerable with us. So thank you, my friend.
My pleasure. But I'm very happy to share that because it's imperative for me to point out that it doesn't matter where you start from. It really doesn't matter where you start from. If you make up your mind, or if you decide that you deserve, or you just decide to start to even just encounter the idea of how you would like it to be, it's all possible. And you can start from no place, no how. I don't care how bad you think it is. The moment you decide it can be better, it can, and it will. And I guess that's why it's important for me to share that bit, because you can start from there. So, okay, so then the next few months unfolded in Killarney, but I still kind of felt there was a sense of, well, sort of freedom. It says, well, I don't have to worry about my business anymore folding because it has. I don't have to worry about my marriage ending anymore because it has. I don't have to worry. And there was a sense of freedom almost, liberation. The things I was worried about don't exist anymore. It's how interesting that is, right? So working my way through, closed up the business, sold off everything, made sure I had one or two staff, made sure they had jobs as well, and moved away, started again in Limerick. Like I said, there was the barbering things, just weren't doing it, and it just took me back to school. I started off doing that little 10-week course. Then I went into life coaching for beginners, and I remember writing on one of the forums, I said, where do you see yourself in 2 or 3 years' time? I see myself as a professional life coach. I have no idea how I'm going to do it. I just know I'm going to do it. And I didn't have any idea how I was going to do it, but I knew I was going to do it. So there was that resolve and that ethic, which hadn't been there before. And I would say a lot of that was to do with, for me, just for me, meditation, just kind of, I guess what you're saying is when I went back to school, the thing I was studying was me, really, what makes me tick, what makes my heart sing, what can I, and also this concept of, well, what could I do? What could I give? How can I serve? How can I help? Which actually takes me out of my head. I'm not thinking about me at all when you're in that space,
And the answer to that came, I'm going to be a life coach, and bring us up to the point of COVID. So from your early start pro bono work to COVID, thanks.
Okay, sure. So part of the pro bono, so when I was studying for Eamonn, there was such a series of extraordinary coincidences, which of course there's no such thing as coincidence. There were so many synchronicities and so many occurrences that came together that allowed me to do my first year of study. So I was working 3 part-time jobs, and the money was manifesting to pay for all of the 1 year in college, you see. And part of the course was to basically go out into the world and find clients. So I guess I was fortunate with the barbering stuff that I had conversations with people every day. And I would ask some people, and I see 1 or 2 wonderful people on here who were part of my pro bono sort of portfolio, and sat with them over several experiences. Now we had to do something like 20 pro bono hours. I think I ended up doing about 35 or 40 because I loved it, and because I understood the buzz of kindness and just serving and you know, how can I help you, and maybe I can sit with you and facilitate something for you. And that was like a drug, let's say, you know. So and huge, like you said, huge learning curve. And what would I say after that? So you have to be in the experience, in the mix, and of course making several mistakes, which is kind of, it's important to be okay with making the mistakes. It was around that time, it was during the pro bono work, I did my first ever public event, my first ever attempt at a public event, and you were there. Yeah, the infamous. But so many of the good things that are going on in my life now, career-wise, have only come about as regards, or because I did that first thing. I organized an event one night in the Absolute Hotel in Limerick. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have the skill set, let's say, that I would be grateful that I had now in terms of public speaking or connecting, you know. And I also didn't have the confidence to honor my own story. I would never have shared any of my personal stuff because I didn't realize then, well, vulnerability is your greatest power, because it also makes people kind of resonate. Oh, so yeah, so I'm not the only one who has something tough. Other people have tough situations too. That's interesting. What do they do? And we connect. So I wasn't at that level, but I had to go with it anyway. It was very tough. Got to the end of it. About an hour and a half. I swore I'm never doing that again. About 6 or 7 months, I joined Toastmasters, and I got up and I spoke for 2 minutes. So fast forward about 2 years now, I'm the VP of membership in Toastmasters. So that escalated quickly. But like, that's just like, you know, just take, I found like if I take that one little uncomfortable step, but I can feel in my heart, keep my head out of the room for a second, head, you stay out of this one. But if my heart feels like it's in my interest to do this, and it might help somebody else as well, jump. And it always works.
It always
Yeah?
works. It always works, Eamonn. Just want to touch on that. You know, you're brave, and bravery is one of the elements that are required in entrepreneurship. You know, and you're willing to jump. There's no net. You're going to walk the high wire. And I was there that evening, and it was tough on you for sure, no question. And you and I had a coffee some weeks afterwards, and you shared with me how tough it was. But I could see it firsthand. Bottom line, folks, is this gentleman here bravely stood up, said, "I'm going to run an event." Booked the hotel, got a whole lot of people in the room, and then everything went wrong. The tech stopped working, the video stopped working, the sound stopped working. They had to shift rooms. It was an absolute nightmare. The most experienced professional would have folded, but not our Eamonn. He kept going to the very end, right? And of course, we're sitting here today as a result. So well done, Eamonn. Okay, so talk to us then about following that into Toastmasters. Great success there. 2 years on, your VP. Happy days. Your coaching work, how did that evolve and bring us up to when I think, if I'm not mistaken, you wound down the barbering in favor of coaching. Can you bring us through that briefly and bring us to COVID? Thanks.
Yes. So after I finished all my studies and doing kind of multiple part-time jobs, I thought, okay, so college is finished, and I landed a wonderful job with a fantastic set of barbers. Let's give him a mention in case he watches the replay. Brownie's Barbers, Brendan over at Ennis. Anyone who's anywhere near the Ennis area, it's a fantastic place to go. So I was there. Now, again, it was a little bit of a comfort zone thing because it was a lovely place to be. So I got a 5-day-a-week job, and there's great money coming in and great tips and fantastic. So I guess I kind of a little bit put off the next stage of the coaching development. And at some point I realized, you know, I'm still doing the 5-day-a-week barbering thing. Now, my coaching clients were starting to expand. So I'm trying to fit everything in, which means at some points I was coaching somebody maybe 6 or 7 a.m. if it suited them. And then doing it all day in the barbershop, come home physically wrecked, maybe a quick power nap, and then coach somebody, maybe even 2, maybe even 3 sessions in the evening. So I was literally doing 2 things at the same, and I thought, you can't keep this up. And that was, yeah, there was a little bit of, I wouldn't say worry, but there was a little bit, okay, this is an issue which I need to fix, and I haven't yet, and probably I was procrastinating on it for sure. And then I think I got a little bit of help. I got a huge helping hand. So I had I mentioned earlier about my marriage breakup, and I hadn't had my kids on holiday with me for a long time. But thankfully, like things smoothed over, and divorce and all settlements and agreements, and dust settled, and it was a nice peaceful kind of situation. So I was in a situation for the first time where I could take my kids on a holiday for first time in 6 or 7 years. We went down to West Clare, Carrigorn, and the weather was just fantastic for about the 8 days, and it was just, we were blissed out. And most of the time when the kids weren't killing each other, but you know, it was just lovely to be in that space. So and lots of lovely beaches, and lots of lovely experience. The last day I decided, okay, well, they live in Kerry, which is like a few hours away, so I'll take the ferry across and have them at a beach in Kerry for the day, right? So I can get them home to their mum that night, which is only like 40 minutes away. And I was driving down the road that day, and with the kids in the car, paying total attention in my big 7-seater, big old juggernaut of a thing, kind of a rust bucket, but that car was a savior that day. As I'm driving along, I suddenly became aware. So I'm doing about 95, 100k on the road, which I can do. That's the speed was 100, right? And I noticed that there was a car coming in the other direction, coming towards me, and it has drifted across the road completely. So it's on my side, and it's literally heading straight for me at 100k. Now, it was as if the next, I don't know, 10 or 15 seconds slowed down. It was almost like I had an hour. It's almost like Matrix or something. And I guess I was making decisions in nanoseconds at high speed. All I can say is something, let's say a higher version of me, right, was driving that car for the next few seconds. No question, because I was there, and it was just extraordinary. Even afterwards, my head was trying to figure out what happened. I was telling the head, you know what, don't even try and figure out logically what just happened, because you won't. But all I can say is the car was coming straight for me. So I knew, okay, that's going to be a 200k hit. And I just thought, no effing way you take me today. I worked too damn hard for this. I've got my kids. I've been manifesting. I've been busy. I've attracted this holiday into my life. We're here and it's the last day of a holiday. No way this happens today. I'll figure this out. So I went into all the dirt and the rubble and the stones, what have you, in the little bit of hard shoulder there was. Had to continue at speed. I knew if I hit the brakes, I'll spin into them or something. So then the car spun a couple of times one way, spun a couple of times back the other way. I have no idea how I managed such ridiculously brilliant stunt driving, right? But I did. I kept the car upright. I felt it nearly come off two wheels at one stage on the right-hand side. Came up and came back down again. And then we kept going. And it was suddenly like, and now we're back in real time. Car is moving forward like this. I could see in the rearview mirror, the other car never even wavered. I wouldn't say that car was even aware how close they came. I can only surmise they were maybe looking at their phone or looking at their phone. They couldn't have looked at it all because they drifted. It's just, or you know, one lane either side, normal highway. It came right across, right at me. So that was, and yet afterwards, I wouldn't say that there was any kind of fear. There was almost an exhilaration. It was almost like a right, Beckett moment. Now my kids were looking at me. You're amazing. How did you do that? I was like, I have no idea. Don't tell your mother. It's like, you know, it's like. So we were talking about it for the next while, okay? And it was an extraordinary experience. I knew. I mean, honestly, there's no melodrama here. The mirrors barely missed each other in the two cars. And I was aware of all of this. Spin that way, spin that way. I was like, I don't even have time to panic. I've got stuff to do. I've got all of us to save here. No way this happens today. But afterwards, in the aftermath, in the next few hours afterwards, it suddenly occurred to me, you know what, there was definitely a higher power in that car with me today. And I'm very aware of how that works, let's say. And Evelyn mentioned Dharma a few days ago. That's a magic word for me. That's very dear to my heart, you know, like the way things are at a higher level. So I was very aware, okay, you weren't on your own today. You had help. Remember that. Tune into that. I think you got a message. Now, the next day I went into my boss, super fella in the salon. I said, I'm out of here. I need to wind down my hours. Instantly. I hadn't replaced the income, right? That's important too. I hadn't replaced the income. I just knew, what are you waiting for? What are you doing? You could have been pulled. So if you were in a million pieces yesterday and your higher self is leaving your body and you were like, man, why did you wait? Why did you not act? It was almost as if I'd been given a second chance. All right, so act, do the thing, make the move. What's the worst that can happen? You could always get another barber job if it doesn't work, right? And in the next few weeks, while I was winding down the hours, clients just started to manifest. The money just started to manifest. So by the time I'd left the barbering job, the financial net, if you like, was there. Yeah.
That's incredible, Eamon. That's incredible. None of us saw that coming. You know, you've been kept around on 2 occasions that we're aware of for some reason. So we're looking forward to seeing what that reason is and how it manifests in the years to come. Quite incredible, quite incredible. Delighted you're okay. Delighted the kids are okay.
100%.
And so all of that led you to basically winding down barbering and getting into coaching, and that's been working well. And you've had clients 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. and all the stuff that goes with that. Clearly, there are entrepreneurial traits here, hard working. It's not 9 to 5. You know, you do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, no matter how long it takes. Happy days. And everything's going swimmingly. You've given up the barbering, and coaching is going well, and then COVID hits. What's life and business like for you today in COVID, please, Eamon?
Okay. So I had still been hanging around a small bit. I was doing a little bit of part-time work in the barbering because I still love it, and just kind of keep my hand in and stay connected. And it was nice having conversation with people. It's a great opportunity to listen to. So obviously that's gone. And any, let's say, real in the room work was gone as well. I had just started, which was a big next comfort zone thing for me. I'd started doing pro bono courses every week in a retirement home in just outside Newmarket on Fergus, Carragorn House, fabulous place. So that's gone as well for now. Hopefully I'm sure that'll come back in the future. So any real life work, let's say, or workshops or anything that I was looking to create, and any ideas I had for a couple of months down the road, that's kind of gone in smoke. Strangely enough, I think the previous experiences and the life story up to now kind of left, it leaves you with an armor, a kind of a shell. Say, okay, this is one of those storm type things that you can be anticipating that's going to come. So it's not about avoiding the storm. Storm is here. What do we do? And there was no real panic about it. It was just kind of almost letting myself be guided, if that makes sense, through COVID. Which interestingly has taken me from a house that I share with a couple of guys down in Newmarket and Fergus in the countryside up to Bettystown. So I had been minding my mum round the clock. Huge kudos and credit to the healthcare industry and carers, because I was putting in like 15, 16 hours a day just minding my mum and being on site. My mum is in the retirement home just up the road in this area. So she's like, it's in a housing environment, but she's getting the medical care she needs. So she's in fantastic hands. So all is good there. So that's left me here in Bettystown. And I thought, well, let's see, I've got a really, really good Wi-Fi connection. I've got a really good location. It's beautiful and bright. I can get outside so I can be it myself. Mind is fresh. And I'm just running with some ideas. And so I set up, for example, I set up a 21-day abundance mindset group on WhatsApp. And I thought, I'm just going to put that there. It's a course that was devised by Deepak Chopra, and I was doing the course that I love this. I love this so much. I'm going to put this course out there. And I thought, like, you know, and it's interesting, right? It's about abundance. I thought that's what I need right now. I need to get my head into that space, because initially in the beginning of COVID, of course, I was worried. Work is gone, money's gone, this is gone, kids are gone. I haven't seen my kids since February. So all that stuff will play on your mind if you let it. I was like, okay, I can't afford to think about what's gone. I need to kind of count my blessings and maybe expand them. So I started this 21-day abundance mindset group, and 75 people joined. So I was like, wow. So I was up half the night kind of answering and admitting people in. So there's this thing on WhatsApp. So it's 21. So that's kept me going. I also run a couple of like a free group and a subscription group. So I keep busy with those on Facebook. Whenever I would do something that kind of works for me, that keeps me afloat, that makes me tick, I was like, that's a good idea. I'll share that. So I might pop on and do a little video or something. So I guess I'm keeping myself busy in my mindset and meditation, my routine, and then we're possibly sharing it. And of course, because I've been doing a lot of online work, I was gravitating to coaching online anyway. I still have some clients online. So I'm still working with that. Like I have 2 clients today, which is I'm just super grateful for the opportunity to get in that space. And I would have my subscription group. So the subscription group, the way that works is I might go in on a Monday morning, for example, and give, let's say, a half-hour workshop, if you like, on a Facebook Live where people can comment. So that's a monthly subscription thing. So that's still tipping away. I've actually expanded that a little bit to do some Zoom calls as well. So if anybody actually wants to come in the group, in the room, and just hang out a bit, We might do that once a week as well.
Fabulous, fabulous. So COVID, looked like a threat at the start, at the outset, but in fact it's turned into a blessing.
It's turned into an opportunity, or I see it as an opportunity, because I was listening to I feel like a lot of teachers, virtual teachers, and people in real, how you and I struck up our friendship. I bought your book, and even that is another fantastic story how that came to be. I just reached out, said thank you to you, and a fantastic friendship bloomed, and thank you for that. But like, it was something I heard someone whose seminar I was listening to the other day said, we will never have this opportunity again. We will never have this opportunity again in this lifetime, or the next, or the next, or the next, to pause, breathe in, reset, and then in the doing so think, okay, so what do I want to get out of my life? What do I want to put into my life? How can I help?
Interesting.
We'll never have that again. So opportunity is the way I choose to look at it. Yeah.
Interesting. One of the guys that was on the show earlier in the week, Liam, I met him at your event that first night. We met in real, but he said, let's not waste a good pandemic. We're not going to see it. And he's absolutely right. And then Emma, who was on yesterday, said COVID is giving us permission to do whatever it is we want, to try something, and you've decided to try something. And
precisely.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you take a shot, there's no guarantee it'll work. You take a shot, there's an absolute guarantee it won't work, right? So it really is, and you're living proof of that. COVID is giving you an opportunity to reinvent, reimagine, and you're just trying stuff. Happy days. So what's the world going to look like post-COVID? I want to get to Q&A from the floor. What's the world going to look like post-COVID for Eamonn Smith?
First of all, I'm so touched. I'm literally goosebumps, hair standing up with how many people are sitting in with us this morning. I'm really, really moved by that, and it's just fantastic. I love connection, right? So that's a thing that's big for me post-COVID, connection. Learning more about me, going deep, going in, my Buddhist practice, that's very dear to my heart for me. I find that's how I kind of connect, yeah. And serve. So I would love to be doing things like events, workshops, half day, all day events, coaching, mentoring, teaching. I would love to be running meditation courses. I teach meditation too, so I'd love to do that. What I want to do as well is run retreats, and I have a particular vision for running a retreat. Place I'd like to go to just to get away from it all in southern Spain, and a friend of mine has a little kind of a place there, like this little villagette. So I'd love to use that facility to run a retreat. So those are some of the things I definitely vision coming in the time to come. And again, it's all around that kind of mindset, heart set. Come from here. Let this just kind of take a time out. Come from here and do the work and whatever I can. And again, it's not about telling somebody something. It's about maybe being in the space and holding space for someone to facilitate about themselves. So that's kind of, it's one thing I would love to do in the future would be maybe to do something, for lack of a better word, something for charity or something to give. When COVID is over, I want to run at least one or several events for free for charity, pull in sponsors, get people to help me kind of facilitate organizing it, lay on all the trimmings and have some big powerhouse inspiration, motivation, positive mindset, expand your comfort zone, little kind of thing. And I'd love to do that for let's say a relevant charity or something that resonates, That's something I'd love to do as well.
That is fabulous, Eamonn.
I see that coming, yeah.
And that's a very important phrase. You see that coming. Evelyn was on the other day. She was talking about manifestation, and we can only manifest in the future, in our futures, what we can see in our futures. So you see a lot of opportunity and a lot of ideas, a lot of great stuff there. So we wish you every success with that, Eamonn, and thank you for sharing being so honest and sharing coffee with us this morning. So we give you the
pleasure.
Deaf community clap because everybody's muted, just to say thank you for being so honest and open. We're going to go to Q&A from the floor in just a moment. So anybody got a question there, will you raise your hand and I'll get to you in a second. But before we do, Eamonn, give us one tip. What would you say to your nearest and dearest? How you will get through COVID in best shape is do blah. What's blah for you?
Blah for me is now, in a word. In other words, what can I do right now? From where I am, with what I have, so I suppose it's acceptance. That was one of my big change around things for me. I remember a time I've been banging my hands on the steering wheel in tears. Why is this happening? And that's non-acceptance. And then I remembered, hang on a second, remember the stuff that you're working with yourself. Acceptance is, this is happening right now. This is how now is. Okay. There's almost a release in that straight away. So my tip would be now, what can I do right now from where I am with what I have? And even if you don't know, write it down and give your subconscious permission to play with it. Say, okay, I don't have an answer for that right now. This is what I do. I don't have an answer for that right now, but I'm writing it down. It's there. It's on the page. What can I do right now from where I am with what I have? Okay, fine, great, thank you. Now I'm going for a walk. Now I'm just going to be with me for a bit. I leave that space and stuff will come up. So what can I do right now where I am with what I have? Start there.
Really,
follow the breadcrumbs.
really wonderful. What can I do right now with what I have, where I am? Eamonn, thank you for that. Q&A from the floor, folks. Who would like to ask a question? Young Tim Kelly in and hand up straight away.
Hey everybody, great to see so many on board this morning. Hope we're all well. Eamonn, I missed the start, so apologies if you kind of already covered this, but I jumped on just as you were talking about the incident with the car and having the kids on board. And basically what it is, I've had this theory for a while, and I've kind of coined it the car crash theory of life. And it's that when you're manifesting it, when you're trying to put a future forward for yourself, and you're saying, I want A, B, and C, the universe or life or opportunities arise for you that give you the chance to change. And those opportunities start off small and minor that a lot of people wouldn't notice, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger until they often culminate with something like an actual car crash, which is life saying you need to stop, you need to do what it is that you're saying you want to do with your life. And I was just wondering if you had, looking back on it, any kind of series of events leading up to that almost car crash that might have been similar kind of signals from the world, so to say, if you want to do this, this is your opportunity to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Brilliant question. I'm smiling because my answer is absolutely. I guess we probably did touch a little bit on it before you came on, Colin, or Tim, Colin. There were a series of little things that you might think, oh, that was a lucky escape, or oh, that was a near miss, or something. There were a few of them, and I definitely understand that as it was almost like life in it, you know, infiniteness. In its understanding and its love and its compassion, because that's all there is abundance, right? At that level, that's almost grabbing me by the collar and saying, Jesus Christ, man, what's it going to be? You know, that was how I understood it. So I dropped into gratitude for the near miss. Okay, so okay, what is it going to be? And I did realize that there were several instances before, like as I said at the start. I would even say like my real challenges with poor mental health, and you know, situation in hospital when I was in my early 20s, and situation with nearly the end of my life when I was at the end of my 30s. I even take those as almost moments where maybe life was trying to show me, you know, it can be like this, but if this makes sense, as I was too busy paying attention to the disconnection. I was too busy paying attention to, oh, this experience sucks. I was paying attention to, I don't want it to be like this. But I didn't pay any attention to, well, okay, so how would you like it to be?
Did you find that it kind of helped you to break down your belief systems in terms of the wrong priorities you had in your life and saying, I have to do A, B, and C, whereas what I want to do is X, Y, and Z, and kind of sticking to these old ideas maybe that are coming from childhood and young adolescence and things like that, and ideas about your life that didn't fit anymore?
Oh yeah, brilliant, yeah. Thanks, Tim. Totally, and so I started getting to work with limiting beliefs. What is a limiting belief? Never heard of it. You mean empowering beliefs? This was, of course, this was all new to me. It was like a child with the keys to the sweet shop. And even in the beginning, that with limiting beliefs was very overwhelming. So even having like success or expansion was very overwhelming if you're not used to it. So of course, that then was, okay, I see. The way I look at it is, okay, what's this limiting belief called? I'm running a story right now. This story is called, I don't deserve, or I'm not worthy, or I can't cope. And the minute you, if this makes sense, the minute you see, I'm running that story, you can pop it, you can work with it, you know, and then you're back into kind of the mindset and the meditations and the inner stuff. But once you can see it, you can work with it. And even with that, I would be saying to myself, okay, I have to. When I see myself speaking that way, I notice my feeling, my vibration drops, okay, because now I'm cracking the whip again. Okay, so instead of saying to myself, I have to, I say, well, I get to. I can. I can choose to, you know, if that answers you.
Tim, does that
Brilliant.
work for you?
That's fantastic. Thanks, Eamon. Appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Tim, thank you for that question and fabulous response. Liam, we'll get to you in just one moment. I'm going to bring Katrina in for a second, please. Katrina.
Hi, how are you? Eamon, you have a very responsive group today. They're eating up what you're saying, and rightly so. So Patricia just basically echoed what Colm said when he honoured your backstory. I've heard it before and it still moved me today. So what else then? So Shelley is responding very much to your instruction to your head to stay out of the game. She's relating to that one. And I think there's a few of us who can relate to that one. And then also Patricia came back on and she's loving your idea about the retreat. It's an amazing idea. Emma and Noel had to leave us, unfortunately. They both have calls, but they'll catch up with us later on tonight when this goes live. And Colm then has included all your information where people can catch up with you after this. So that's everything we have in the comments, but I'm sure there's more questions to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Thanks, Kat, for coming on. Appreciate that. Just before she left, Noel did say, well done, Eamon. Thank you for being so open and honest. Wish you all the best. Have to go on another call. Happy Friday, everyone. So thank you for that, Noel. Liam Burke, you are live.
Eamon, what a great interview you did today with Colm, and I just want to kind of endorse your product. I was probably one of your first customers when you were a student, and I'm just kind of a living proof of what you have done for me, and I just want to say thank you. That's number one. Number two, Eamon, I think there's a book in you, and that's the question I want to ask you. If in the future, I think you have a great story to tell, and you are a fabulous life coach, but is there a book in you? That's my question.
Oh, bless your heart, Liam. Thank you so much. Absolute gentleman. One thing, I'm going to just tweak a couple of things you said there, okay? You most certainly were not a customer. You were a coachee, let's say, or a client, if I can even use that word. But you know, as a wise man once said to me, a wise man and a good friend hosting the show said, we serve, we don't sell. But and that was a great lesson for me as well, because I was maybe trying a bit too hard at the start of my coaching career, and maybe I was a bit selly, not intending to be, but a bit pushy. And I know I sort of probably bit a bit too hard with some people by just my eagerness and my happiness and my willingness to whatever work with my own stuff and theirs. So I'd say, yeah, definitely, it's a dream for me. It's probably one I left off the vision list. Book for sure. You're not the first person that has said that to me, and you won't be the last. And that's something where I can relate that question back to myself. Okay, book. What could I do right now from where I am and what I have? Even just, I have a couple of journals, actually. Even in the last, they're never far away, and that's a relatively new thing in my life, is to write down, collate stuff. So maybe the next step might be to kind of make sense of that, you know, or give it to an editor and wish them well. But yeah, I think there's a book in me. At least one. And the idea of that will be, look, anything that gives somebody hope where they don't, or an idea where they don't have, or just facilitates someone having a light bulb moment. That's just such a buzz. I mean, I'll tell you, for example, Liam, the other day I woke up that one morning a few days ago, and I was just beaming from ear to ear. I was nearly in tears. I was so happy because 75 people were buzzing with each other doing this abundance meditation thing every day. So it had a meditation and then a view, like a phrase to hold, and then an action step that you take. I was like, there's 75 people doing that because you had the balls to just do it. So I think it's the same thing with a book. It's just, for me, it's like, right, I would start. So that, I suppose some notes are there. So yeah, I would love to. I see that coming, yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm trying to figure out how the royalties thing works here. Ideas just pop up, you know. Liam Burke, great suggestion. And Katrina O'Brien's going to come back in on that. She made a comment. Katrina, you're...
Well, Eamon, if you ever need someone to sell that book, you know you have a woman right here. I'll be first to read it.
Super.
Princess Shelley will be straight after me, and I'm sure there's going to be people, everyone here will be lining up outside of Mahoney's or wherever they buy their books.
Oh, bless
Not
you.
just pushing my day job. But yeah, and if you need a launch, I'll organise that for you too.
Mm-hmm. I can see some kind of wrecking my brother's head conversations. My brother on the call there he knows a thing or two about penning a book, so that's probably a conversation that can pop
All
up.
right, lovely. Rodney, we didn't get to bring you in, but thank you for that. And Katrina, thank you for that. For those of you that don't know, Katrina is the smile and face behind the customer service desk in O'Mahony's. She's through the little plug and then covered it nicely by saying, or wherever you buy your books, so long as it's O'Mahony's.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Shelley. Very kind.
Folks, it's been an absolute pleasure, Coffee at 11 this morning. An absolute pleasure having you all on. Thank you for entrusting us and giving us your time, because the one truly irreplaceable resource is time. So we really appreciate the fact that you've taken an hour with us this morning. Eamonn Smith, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend.
Thanks, Colin. Thank you, sir.
Namaste. And before I let you all go for the beautiful weekend, although there's no such thing as a weekend anymore, it's all just one big blur. Wonderful.
Happy 5th Monday, everybody.
5th Monday.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you, please, who's going to join us on Monday coming. And I'd love you all to come back in on Monday and meet Sarah Ward. Sarah has been a regular in the Coffee at 11 cafe since we started a number of weeks ago. And in doing so, I got to know Sarah a little bit. And she's allowed me to share this piece. She's been a sufferer of ME since 2001. And as such, she heads up the ME Self-Help Support Group here in Limerick, which is backed by the Irish ME Trust. So I'd love you to come join us and listen to Sarah's story on Monday. And Sarah, thank you for agreeing to that. Once again, folks, let's give Eamonn Smith the Coffee at 11 round of applause. Eamonn, my friend, namaste.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.